him here in the Timeless 25 capsule, and this one's kind of special for me. This is he's a powerhouse of a pianist. He became a great friend over the period of making the album. And Robin Smith, in his own right, is a remarkable artist. He's a remarkable producer. Has produced all of the 5-star albums from back in the day in the late 80s and early 90s, I think, around there. He was heavily involved in right. I mean, when I first went to his home in Maida Vale, gold discs adorning all the walls, grand pianos everywhere. I think maybe he had one or two. And part of the process of what I went through making Timeless was really important to have him talking about this very, very process of me nabbing him and taking all the MIDI information, doing this mad science on what he's done. And he was the bed, if you like, for what is Timeless and You and Me. He was the main fundamental player on You and Me, and he's a fantastic guy, and he's going to join me right here. For anyone that's watching this, out of everyone that I've spoken to, Robin was, a massive, massive player in this in Timeless. Now you've gone darker. You've gone worse.
Oh no, it's amazing, isn't it? Oh, there you go.
Go that way. Yes, away from the light. There you go. It's even better.
Away from the light.
Yeah, away from the light.
Yeah, go on.
So I was informing people that Robin, in his own right, in your own right, is a pianist, a composer, a writer. You've conducted the Albert Hall. You've done all of these massive projects. Someone you probably passing Sainsbury's or Waitrose and wouldn't go, how much music this guy's done. Instead of going, no, it's Goldie, or it's Andy C, or there's Randall. Like, you're a star in your own right. You've done so much music. And of course, little old me, 26 years ago, you were in Maida Vale. Going into your place, I always remember, Jesus Christ, this is money. It's like, and all I remember is gold discs everywhere from 5-star.
That's right, yeah, Pasadena's, all that kind of stuff. Right?
5-star. Who, just for people that are watching, who else were you working with at the time over that period?
At that time I was working with Earth, Wind and Fire, Gladys Knight, Al Jarreau. Wow. No, it's amazing, man. Maurice White.
I didn't even know that you were with Al Jarreau.
Yeah, no, I did one. I wrote a song for him ages, and for Gladys Knight. I mean, it's frigging amazing. Man, it's sad because you met me at that time when songwriting was changing. In the days before you met me, I was a songwriter. So when you went to LA, you didn't go to LA as like, producer or da-da-da. You were like a songwriter. Why are you here? I'm writing songs. Oh, in that case, I'll put you with this songwriter. Da-da-da. It was amazing. That was your 9-to-5 job. It was amazing.
I never knew that, Robin. I knew that you'd written a lot of stuff with 5-star or produced. But of course, the naivety of it's about us and rave music and drum and bass music. But Earth, Wind and Fire, I mean, that's even, I mean, that was me, probably September when I think about that tune was my go-to skate record.
No, there's amazing. Yeah, I used to play tennis with Maurice White. I mean, it was amazing. And then, this is the most amazing story. So do you remember Ramsay Lewis?
Ramsay Lewis rings a bell.
Ramsay Lewis was really famous. His big thing was Wade in the Water, piano player, one of the first kind of R&B piano players.
Right.
Check him out. You know that. Write down Salongo. That will give you some beats.
Write that down right now, Salongo. I'm on it. See, this is what Robin does to me. Go on.
No.
And who was the artist? So who's the artist?
No, it's Ramsay Lewis, one of the most influential piano players, because he was one of the first guys who came out who had a classical kind of feel about his playing,
right?
But was kind of playing jazz soul, whereas Herbie Hancock was jazz, and Chick Corea was jazz. This guy had this technique was amazing because it was completely on the tip. And of course, Earth, Wind and Fire did his record. Well, Maurice did his record, so it had this kind of arranged kind of soul, amazing stuff with this guy playing. So I was working with Maurice White, and he went one day, Rob, I've got to do an album for my mate Ramsay. Can you come up to Chicago and do it? And I think probably just before I met you, I've been sitting in Chicago with Ramsay Lewis, teaching him how to play the piano. I was fucking amazed with Maurice like shaking the shank.
I mean, you think about it, like, because obviously I was just in his vision of what I had from this kind of mad science point of view. But coming to your place, not to write, because I always wanted to write songs myself and do my own thing. And of course, then the structure of music had changed, right? And of course, the idea of like, can we plug it into the MIDI? And Rob was very technical and wanted to get all the MIDI. And you go, what's the idea here? Now, of course, raconteuring, the term to raconteur, your remembrance of these stories and my remembrance can be very different. But the idea of, I know I was a bit mad, but I also knew that I would like hum in your ear and sing these mad melodies, but you were always playing stuff. And I was, oh, stop there. That's, yeah, can we do that again? Can we repeat that? And what happened was, I think you just playing, we just did like 2 days of freestyle. And I had
it's one day, but honestly, mate, it was the magic. It was done in about 3 hours. You said, Rob, can you just turn the computer on? I'm going to set and this is honest truth. This is what happened. Yeah, and I had my piano connected to it. I think it was a Roland. And you said, look, all I want you to do, I'm going to set the tempo. And I think it was probably 150, wasn't it?
I think it's 150.
So this click was done. And you just said, I don't care what you do. I just want you to play for 2 hours. And I played for about 2 hours. No, honestly, I played into that machine. There wasn't any stopping. I don't think I even went. I just played and played and played, blah, 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 blah.
But what was great about it was I heard all of this magic and kind of like started, taking all the MIDI and punching holes through it, because Vintage Keys for me, when it just came out, and the idea of taking the MIDI and taking what I was into pads. So I'd take the structures and put Lego bricks, knocking all the Lego holes out and creating these loops within the you'd played and started piecing it together. It was like shuffling cars. And of course, that whole process for me was the bed of timeless. When you think about that became timeless. And you told me a story the other week about your friend. You said, have you heard this record? It sounds really kind of like you're playing, but it's weird.
Honestly, mate, you came down my flat. There's a few amazing things about our life together. But you came down that flat. You told me to play into the computer, and you came. Who's the guy you came with?
Rob Playford. It was Rob Playford.
Big guy.
Oh, Cliff White. Was it Cliff White?
Yeah, it was fucking huge. He was bigger than my room. I mean, and I thought, I've got to play well, otherwise I'm in trouble. Anyway, and then I think about 3 weeks later, I went off to LA. I went off to LA. I was doing my band Pride and Politics, and I was doing all kinds of shit out there and writing. And I never saw you again. And that was it. And I never knew until I came back a year and a half later, and my mate was going, have you heard this album? You know this. You told me about this guy, Goldie. He's like one of the top people in the world now. And I went, what? and then he went, a lot of the piano, it really sounds like you. I'll go, yeah. So I then spent 3 years trying to phone you up, and you never answered once. Anyway, where's my money? No, it was good actually.
But I think it was amazing how we took this sound and put it against this because I was always fascinated with Judy Zook and classical people. It was my guilty pleasure that people thought, and having these mad sweeping pads to create this stuff and have this. I wanted to have this grand intro, and it was the idea of this music's good enough to do that with.
Yeah.
Always bastardized or looked down on, and I felt that the genre, like you said, I was into, Papa's Got No Pin Bag, all these great songs that were made, funk tracks that had great arrangements. Yeah. The brass section was the brass section, and it was great. I mean, even like today, Les McCann, I spent the day listening to Les McCann. I mean, it's almost pre-Rare Groove. You think about those old, Cry If You Want to Cry. You know what I mean? All these mad tracks I thought were really amazing. And the influence from D&B people were just looking at the stuff that was on the surface. Like I was looking at SOS Band and, Sands of Time and, and of course, Hanging on a String and, Loose Ends, which was, for me, the greatest record, one of the greatest British records that came out. And that was what it was. And I think even my first EPs were just like an eclectic mix of all of these samples from these tracks, with this mad kind of style of doing it as we would do. And I think that's why people in the end, from the jazz background, when it had developed over the years, still liked drum and bass because it had this thing where it was very eclectic and it had this I kind of know that, but it's a different, sample sound. It had this,
Yeah.
one sound, but it's got 12 different nuances in it. They've
Yeah.
got this angst, and I feel that kind of started getting lost when the software started, fast forward even, 10 years from that, and you had these things like mixed in key, where DJ would put mixed in key, and
Oh,
so all these records sounded the same, and there's no angst. And I think what the label and reinforced where it was with at the time, before the record deal happened, I had this idea of having this sound on this edge and this angsty sound and this weird thing, which would work. And what you brought to the table with the playing was this other, you got this ground root that I could shape it around it, so that as soon as you took the pads away, the drums would sound really nice and the bass would sound gnarly. As soon as you put the pads back, the bass became softened and tamed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's what jazz does in that sense. But we had
and of course, it was amazing. Honestly, that time in history, if we could wind back, was absolutely amazing, because you mentioned all the kind of the stuff that was going on, like hanging on a string and whatever. When you think about that was still very much drum machine based, right? Yes. And in some ways, what Soul to Soul, which is where we kind of met, in that back,
that crack.
That kind of changed things a lot, because up to that point, you didn't have piano players. Piano players were now playing into machines, getting quantized to the living shit. Yes. And after the time, they could well be the producer just going, which is what Soul to Soul brought to the table with the whole kind of concept. Was it Simon Laws? He was a piano, wasn't he?
I think it was Simon Laws, and also I mean, you can shed some light on that, because of course Utopia was around the corner.
That's it.
Utopia wasn't far away, and my intro to even wanting to do music to get into it was sitting in Mayfair Studios, watching Howie in the wee hours of the morning, engineering for Jazzy, and I think the first thing I ever heard in there was Dream a Dream.
That's right, totally.
Tall girl with the blonde hair. It was like really, it was like this new Grace Jones type character, this, really strong character. And when hearing the funk in that from Jazzy's influence, and of course my thing was Nelly. I've known Nelly from Bristol. And
totally. It was amazing.
It was an amazing time for British music. But I think the idea of even further than that, when it's a thing where it happens socially and the technology changed, because all of a sudden S1000 came in. We were using 950s, and I even remember working at Arlington Street at doing when I did the 2 EPs there before Timeless was about to get signed. It was John Truelove, it was 2 EPs, and we're into Timeless. But the idea of Diane was through John Knowles, meeting John Knowles through Howie B, and thinking 52nd Street in the back of my mind. And then, of course, they were doing this project with Candy Mountain, I think just around the same time, and it didn't really work out well. And that was with Howie and Dobie, with Dobie. And it was amazing. At that time, you had Bionic and all these amazing rap, and Rodney P. That was doing some mad eclectic stuff. And I felt that I was on this overground thing, going to the WAG and in London and this, but I was also going on the underground and discovering all these raves, because I'd kind of missed the first wave. I was in America and I came back, and it was this explosion of breakbeat culture with rave sounds, and I kind of wanted to kind of get away from that. It was a bit too helium for me. What if we get like a little idea of a song being Chemistry, the first one? But your impact, especially with, being in the bed of Timeless, and when you listen back to it, can you hear yourself within the chords? Because we did a lot.
Yeah, totally. I was.
You can hear this way that we put into it, but you and me is you. There was this way of this style of what you play. And I think one of my proudest things was reconnecting. And you said, I've got a gift for you. I've got a present for you. And what could it be? And listening to the classical version, your rendition, if you like, it's just had me in bits, that piece. And it's just
good. That was the idea.
It's so beautiful. I mean, we're gonna do a little magic on it and sprinkle. But I think what I love about it is that playing is just so you. And you think, and it's when it opens up and it blossoms, you think, what a beautiful, beautiful rendition.
Yeah, no,
because it's out of all those years when you think about the impact of that. And then I sent it to Echoes, a girl we're producing her album right now. We're all doing it together and writing the album.
Yeah.
And one of the things I always managed to be good at was I hear this shape, get straight on it with a recording. It used to be on my Olympus. and lay out this mad melody that can counteract and counterpoint with.
Yeah.
We've spoke about this before, about the process of how my approach to making music is different than, you know, it's weird. I've got people that gifted to play. It's my job as an artist just to photograph players and arrange it in a way that I see as the alchemy for this bigger picture of what that sound is. And some of the subjective stuff I spoke about was interesting. But what's been your thing, seeing the music change for that? When you listen to the album, what was it? What did it give you that was different than what was happening at the time?
I think what it gave me was the fact that I probably would say this. I mean, I'd love to say this to young people, but I'll never get to do it. Which is, if you learn your craft, right? If you've got a nugget, so many people do not bother to learn how to play the piano properly. They don't learn about all music. I mean, on Timeless, you've got me playing. I've got given a God-given, blimmin' fantastic art. But through that, I play Debussy, I play Ravel, I play Beethoven, whatever. So on Timeless, you've got all that, as well as I said, people like Ramsay Lewis, Herbie Hancock, and that you've got all these people there. And that's why it's so important that everybody out there who listens to music or loves music embraces absolutely every single finite part. And of course, Timeless is that. Timeless has taken every sort of edge of everything that's ever been made in music and put it in a brand new bag, because there's so much musicality on that album. It's ridiculous.
Well, I felt that your contribution was second to none, but I also think that from the alchemy point of view, I felt the conduit of it as well, because it was a coming of age album. It was the idea of, I've been doing a talk through on each track, for example, and talking through what the track meant and what it was about. And I went through the process of you playing, and just to be able to watch him, I think one of the most, it was a curse and a blessing to watch a musician playing music, and you say, stop, play that again. You play what again? And you just start something else. And I do remember stopping a few times and going, go back to that thing there. And that's my process. You wouldn't just play for 2 hours. I've got to stop you there and play that. And you'd go like that, and you just got to go, Natalie used to do to me, I think he likes minor fifths, or he likes it in the upper sevenths. I don't know what the fuck they are, but
nor do I.
But the idea of watching you like flames and you play, and I guess for you to have the ability to play endlessly freaks me out. That
freaks me.
Sit there and just. When did you discover that you could just do that? Do you know what I mean?
When I was 6, literally, I started playing piano when I was 5, and by the time I was 6, I just did. That was it. That was it all came through my fingers, through whatever it is, you think, and it still happens. I mean,
were you classically trained? Were you? Because you went to music school. So tell me a little bit about your coming up.
So I started when I was 5, and by the time I was 6, I was composing. I just had this natural thing. It's amazing. You see, you've got all these kids out there. If you don't give these kids the opportunity to find art at an early age, they'll never know. I mean, I could have been probably a plumber, but no, I ended up, by the age of 6, I knew what I was going to do for the rest of my life, and I just had this natural ability to, you get certain gifts that are gifted, like perfect pitch and rhythm, but I know that's it, and I've done that all my life. I could sit anywhere and play anything. It's amazing.
I mean, you even did that classical show where I played about 4 of your pieces, The Weekend. Anyone that's out there that loves classical music and loves the idea of the crossover of it, Le Weekend is one of Robin's projects, which I love and adore. And on a Sunday when I'm painting, I'm like, all right, before I even scrub up, I'm like, get in there, get the nails there, get rid of Le Weekend out, get rid of Dirty.